On my 30th birthday, my parents told me they'd give all my gifts to my sister. Congratulations. Start packing. You can stay with a friend, my mom said. My dad added, you're independent, aren't you? So, we're giving the house to your sister. Fine. I replied and disappeared. The next day, something unbelievable happened with their company. 45 missed calls from my father and one voicemail from my sister. We were just joking. Come back. My name is Max. I'm 30 years old, and I've always been the one who kept a low profile in the family. Not the golden child. Not the troublemaker. Just Max. The one who was never good enough to get noticed, but never bad enough to get into trouble. I've been the guy who worked hard, kept my head down, and played by the rules, waiting for something to change, hoping for a moment where my efforts would mean something. But that's not how it works, is it? Not when you're always just in the background. Growing up, it was clear that my younger sister, Lily, was the one who mattered. My parents always talked about her accomplishments like they were miracles. She was a straight A student, had the social skills to charm anyone, and could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one, focusing on my books, working part-time jobs to support myself through school. But none of that seemed to count. Even at 30, I've never felt like I belonged in my own family. It wasn't just the lack of attention, it was the favoritism. Every time something good happened to me, it was like no one noticed. And Lily? Well, she had the world on a string. That was all until the night of my 30th birthday. I hadn't expected much. If anything, I was just grateful to have a family dinner to go to. I don't even know why I thought it would be any different. When I walked into the living room, I saw the usual scene. My parents were sitting on the couch, all smiles. The table was set, but there was only one small gift wrapped in blue paper sitting there. My heart sank. Mom gave Lily the gift. I felt a tight knot form in my stomach. This is from us, she said, grinning. Lily tore into the paper like she was expecting something big. A new tablet. The latest phone. The kind of gift that made you feel special. I didn't even get a card, not even a little note. Perfect fit for you, sweetheart, Dad said, his voice thick with pride. I sat there, still as a statue, while they fawned over Lily. I looked down at the floor, trying to hide how much it stung. I tried to convince myself that it was fine. I wasn't the type to make a big deal out of things. But deep down, I felt small, forgotten. And then came the words that broke me. Max, you don't deserve anything right now, Mom said, her voice almost cold. Be grateful we even let you come over. I tried to laugh it off, but I couldn't. Not this time. Not anymore. I didn't stay for the rest of the night. I just stood up, excused myself, and walked away. There was no fight, no shouting, just silence. I knew where I stood in their eyes. I always had. So I left. Not dramatically, just quietly, like I'd always been invisible. But I wasn't expecting what would come next. The next day, I woke up to something unbelievable. My phone was flooded with missed calls from my dad. 45 of them. One voicemail from Lily. We were just joking, Max. Come back. I didn't know if I was angry, hurt, or just confused. But I wasn't going back. I've always been the one who didn't quite fit. When I was a kid, I remember always being in the background, watching as Lily got all the attention. It was never explicit. My parents never said, you're not as good as her. They didn't have to. The subtle looks, the little comments, and the way they always seemed to be more proud of her. It spoke volumes. My childhood was filled with moments where I knew I wasn't enough. For example, when I was in high school, I worked my ass off to get decent grades, hoping that if I showed I could succeed on my own, they'd notice. But Lily? She'd get a congratulatory dinner just for getting an A in a class. Meanwhile, I'd get a pat on the back for finishing a year of tough classes while working part-time at a store. It wasn't fair, but what could I do? Still, I kept trying. I kept pushing, telling myself that one day they'd see how hard I worked. Maybe they'd finally recognize the person I'd become. But that didn't happen. By the time I turned 30, I'd built my own career. I'd worked my way up in a tech company, earning a decent salary, and I had a small but comfortable apartment. I was independent. I wasn't living off my parents like Lily, who still couldn't make up her mind about what she wanted to do with her life. She bounced from job to job, always coming back to them for help. Yet, somehow, everything about her was seen as a success. I had my own life, my own goals. But my parents? They still thought of me as the quiet, less important son. It didn't help that Lily always seemed to be in the spotlight. Last year, She'd gotten a promotion at a company where she barely did anything but look good in meetings. My parents threw a huge party for her. I was invited, of course, but only because they couldn't make it look like they were ignoring me. When I got promoted a month later, though, not a word. No congratulations. No fanfare. Nothing. I thought maybe it was just how they were. Maybe they didn't know how to show love or appreciation. After all, they were older. They didn't understand what it was like to fight for your place in the world. But the truth was, they didn't care enough to try. I still went to their house for family events. Part of me clung to the hope that things would change. That maybe, just maybe, one day they'd see me for who I was and not just who they wanted me to be. But that night, my 30th birthday, something inside me finally broke. I watched them spoil Lily with attention. The birthday song, the gifts, the praise, and I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like I was suffocating in that room, watching my own life pass by while they acted like I wasn't even there. That's when Mom said those words. Max, you don't deserve anything right now. I thought maybe I was mishearing her. But no, the weight of her words hit me like a punch to the gut. And Lily, sitting there with that satisfied smile, didn't even seem to notice. She just basked in the glow of her own reflection, never once thinking about how much I'd sacrificed to get here. And then, as if on cue, Dad added, "You're independent, aren't you? So, we're giving the house to your sister." My world stopped. It wasn't just about the gifts or the birthday. It wasn't even about the house. It was about the constant reminder that no matter how hard I worked, no matter what I achieved, I'd always be the background player in their eyes. I wasn't their golden child. I was just Max, the one who never quite measured up. But instead of breaking down, I just stood up. I didn't shout, didn't throw a tantrum. I didn't say a word. I just walked out. I wasn't going to sit there anymore, letting them take everything from me. The next day, I woke up to 45 missed calls from my dad. 45. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. I knew it was them. I knew they were trying to reach me. But I wasn't ready to talk to them. Not yet. I stared at my phone. The screen lit up with each notification, each call, each text. I sat there, frozen, as the messages piled up. There was one voicemail from Lily. "We were just joking, Max. Come back." I couldn't even respond to that. I didn't know if I was more furious or heartbroken. The last thing I wanted to do was go back to their house, back to that place where I felt like nothing more than a convenience, a name on a family tree that was easier to ignore than to love. But then my dad texted, "Max, don't make this harder than it needs to be. We're family. Come home." I laughed bitterly. Family? They only called me family when it was convenient for them, when they needed someone to fix something, or when they wanted to remind me how lucky I was to even have a place at the table. But when it came to my achievements, my hard work, my struggles, I was invisible. For a while, I just sat there, phone in hand. My brain was racing. I had to make a decision. I didn't want to go back, but I also knew that if I didn't, they'd just keep pushing, keep acting like everything was fine, like nothing had happened, like I was just supposed to forget the way they treated me. So, I did the only thing I could do. I packed my stuff. Slowly, methodically. It wasn't some dramatic packing session where I threw things into a bag. No, this was deliberate. Each shirt folded neatly, each book placed in a box. It was like I was slowly packing up my entire life, every moment of sacrifice, every failed attempt to get their attention, into boxes I was never going to unpack. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't call them. I didn't give them the satisfaction of knowing they'd broken me enough to make me leave. I just left. Quietly. That was my breaking point. The moment I realized that no matter how much I tried to earn their love, it would never be enough. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. The next few weeks were a blur. I didn't hear from them. Not really. Sure, I got the occasional text from Mom, asking if I was okay. But it wasn't about me. It was about them. How they couldn't believe I left. How they couldn't believe I was so ungrateful. A few weeks passed. I threw myself into work. I immersed myself in the things that mattered, things that made me feel like I was moving forward, away from them. I didn't respond to any of their calls or texts. It was like they never existed. But then, out of nowhere, I got a call from Lily. "Max, we need to talk." I ignored it at first. But then the voicemail came. I hit play, bracing myself for whatever she had to say. We need you here. Mom's having a hard time with all of this. I didn't mean to hurt you. We were just messing around. Please come home. It's not the same without you." I felt a surge of anger wash over me. I had been there for them for years. I'd let myself be the invisible one, always waiting for them to notice me, to care about what I did. And this was how they tried to fix it? By telling me it was all a joke? I couldn't do it. Not anymore. But something about her voice. It was that small crack in her facade that made me hesitate. She wasn't apologizing. She was manipulating. And that's when I knew. I wasn't going back. I wasn't going to be their scapegoat. I wasn't going to be the person they thought they could control. I deleted the message. And then, the unthinkable happened. A few days later, I found out something about their company. It wasn't just some random business issue. No, it was a massive screw-up, a financial disaster that was about to rock their world. It wasn't just a small blip. This was big. They were in trouble. Serious trouble. And just when I thought I couldn't be more disconnected from them, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my dad. "Max, we need you." I read the text over and over. "We need you." The same words they'd used years ago, but this time they were desperate. This time, they were the ones who needed me. I didn't reply. I didn't say a word. I wasn't coming back to fix their mess. I didn't need to. That was the breaking point. The moment I realized I didn't need to be part of their story anymore. Days turned into weeks. I kept myself busy. At work, I pushed harder than ever. I threw myself into every project, every deal, until I could barely remember the last time I thought about them. But that's how it always worked, didn't it? When you're trying to escape, you throw yourself into something else. It keeps you moving forward, keeps your mind occupied. I didn't want to think about the fact that they were still reaching out. I didn't want to remember the way they ignored me for years, pretending everything was fine, and then suddenly expecting me to drop everything and help them. But it wasn't easy to ignore them. They kept trying. One day, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me made me do it. "Max." It was my dad. His voice sounded different, strained. He never used to sound like that. It was always so authoritative, so sure of itself. "Yeah, it's me. I. I don't know where to start, son. You need to come back. Your mom, she's really upset." I didn't respond right away. My mom. Upset? She hadn't been upset when she told me I didn't deserve anything. She hadn't been upset when she dismissed me like I was nothing. Now she wanted me to come back. Now she was upset? "I'm not coming back," I said, the words coming out of my mouth like I'd been waiting to say them for years. I know," my dad said quickly. "But this is different. Your sister, Lily, she messed up." I froze. Lily? Messed up? My dad never, ever admitted any kind of fault when it came to Lily. She could do no wrong in his eyes. That was the first crack in the wall that made me listen. "What are you talking about?" "I don't want to get into the details, but the company, things aren't good, Max. We're losing money. We need help. We need you." I was stunned. Was this really happening? Were they really calling me for help after all this? After everything they'd done? "You need me now, huh?" I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Funny how it works like that. Max, please. We can't do this alone. I know I wasn't always there for you. But you have to understand, this is serious. We need you to help us save the company. It's falling apart." I felt a small pang of satisfaction at hearing him admit it, but it was quickly overshadowed by a deep sense of bitterness. My parents had always acted like I wasn't capable of anything. I wasn't the one who could save the family or do anything important. And now, when things were bad, they were coming to me. They were coming to me for help. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly, my voice almost calm. "You ignored me for years. You made me feel worthless. And now, when everything's falling apart, you want me to fix it? To save your company? To save your reputation?" There was silence on the other end of the line. I didn't expect an apology. I didn't expect anything at all. But still, I had to say it. "Max, I'm sorry for everything. For how we treated you. I know it's too late for words, but I need you to understand. We need you." I ended the call right then. I didn't need to hear any more. I didn't need to listen to their pleas, their guilt tripping. I didn't need to feel like I was the last resort they were clinging to because nothing else had worked. But they didn't stop. They kept calling, texting. They reached out through other people too. My aunt, my cousins, even my friends from back home. "Max, please. It's important. Come back." I ignored every single one. It wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't about their company. It was about me finally understanding that I didn't owe them anything. Not a single thing. All those years, all those missed birthdays, all those ignored accomplishments, they weren't my problem anymore. But then, something happened that I wasn't expecting. A message came in from my old boss, The one who had always been a little too friendly, always a little too concerned with my family situation. I don't know if you've heard yet, but there's a huge opportunity with the company. Your parents are in trouble. They're asking for investors. I think you could really help them. Maybe it's time you came back. They're asking for you by name. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. There it was again. The expectation. They needed me. But instead of feeling guilty, all I could feel was this sense of finality. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to go back and fix everything they broke. I wasn't going to put myself back into the position where I had to earn their love or their approval. I wasn't going to be their fall guy anymore. I didn't respond to my boss. I didn't respond to my parents. I didn't respond to anyone. I blocked their numbers. And I kept moving forward with my own life. And that was the moment I realized I had made the right choice. It's been months since I cut them out of my life. At first, I thought it would be hard, impossibly hard, but the longer I stayed away, the more it became clear. This was the first time I'd ever felt truly free. Free from the weight of their expectations, their guilt trips, their never-ending need for validation. It wasn't about the money or the company anymore. It was about peace. A peace I'd never known until I finally stopped letting them control my life. I kept pushing forward, focusing on my career. I had no interest in the drama anymore. I was building something on my own. A small business I'd started during the first few weeks of isolation was growing faster than I expected. I had a team now. Real people who respected me, who cared about what I had to say. People who didn't see me as just the background character. But even then, I didn't forget how they treated me. How? When everything went wrong for them, they thought they could just call me up and expect me to fix it. They thought I would drop everything and run back, like some superhero who had to save them from their own mistakes. They thought I was still the Max they could manipulate and control. They didn't know me at all. One night, just when I was starting to feel like I was building a life worth living, I saw something that made my heart stop. It was a notification on my phone, a news article. The headline was all too familiar. Local tech company faces bankruptcy. Family business in crisis. The article went on to explain the trouble my parents were in, and it hit me like a brick. The business was in ruins. My mom and dad were losing everything. I wasn't shocked. In fact, a small part of me felt like it was inevitable. They'd always acted like their problems weren't something they could handle. They'd brushed aside anyone who didn't fit into their perfect little world. But that wasn't what got me. It was the comments section beneath the article. My dad's name was mentioned over and over, along with my mom's. There were people, strangers, talking about how they'd watched their company grow, then crash. Some of them were sympathetic, others less so, blaming the mismanagement, the greed. But in the middle of it all, there was one comment that hit me the hardest. Max, if you're out there, your family needs you. They're going under, and I don't know what's left to save. It wasn't from my parents. It wasn't from Lily. It was a stranger. Someone who had somehow gotten their hands on my number. Someone who thought they knew my story. Someone who was now trying to pull me back in. I sat there, staring at the screen, trying to process it all. Part of me wanted to pick up the phone. Part of me wanted to feel needed again. But then I remembered everything. I remembered how they had treated me, how they had ignored me, how they had only come running when their world was falling apart. I deleted the message. For a long time, I just sat there. I didn't feel any joy in their downfall. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel anything at all except relief. I didn't have to carry their weight anymore. I didn't have to fix their mistakes. I wasn't their problem to solve. The truth was, I had spent so many years trying to prove myself to them, trying to get their approval. And when I finally stopped, when I finally said no, it was the first time I truly felt like I was living my life for myself. I wasn't living for them. I wasn't doing things to be acknowledged. I was doing them because I wanted to. And that was worth everything. A week later, I went to my favorite spot in the city, a small park by the water. It was quiet, peaceful. No one to judge me. No one to tell me I should have done more. I sat down on a bench and looked out at the sunset, letting the weight of the past few months settle into my bones. The wind felt cool against my face, like it was washing away the last of the bitterness. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Lily. I'm sorry, Max. For everything. I didn't know what I was doing. Please come back. We need you. I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to type something back. But I didn't. I just sat there, letting her words sink in. I didn't know them anything. I didn't know her anything. I wasn't the kid who had to clean up after them anymore. I wasn't the one who had to be the fixer. And most of all, I wasn't the one who needed their approval. Not anymore. So, I didn't reply. Instead, I put my phone down and stood up. I had my own life now, and that was enough.